You know, we've all said it. Someone asks what you want to do, and you just say, I'm fine with whatever. It feels so easy, right? So agreeable. But what if that tiny little phrase is actually the tip of a very dangerous iceberg? Today, we're going to dig into the hidden danger of self-silencing and see how these small, seemingly harmless agreements can actually lead to some really big mistakes. Just think about it for a second. That extra project at work you knew you didn't have the bandwidth for, or maybe that restaurant you really didn't want to go to but everyone else seemed excited. Come on, we've all been there. But this isn't just about being polite. It's actually a pattern, and it has a name. So let's get into it. The whatever agreement. Why on earth do we do this to ourselves? Why do we silence our own wants and needs? Well, it turns out this little habit we all have is a really well-documented psychological thing. And here it is, self-silencing. Now, the key word here is habit. This isn't just a one-off thing. It's a habit we build, a consistent choice to put what we think the group wants ahead of our own truth. It's basically a survival strategy we use to fit in. But, as we're about to find out, it comes with a seriously high price tag. Now, you might be thinking, oh great, so it's a character flaw. But hold on, it's not that simple at all. Our brains are literally, and I mean literally, hardwired to do this. So let's dive into the science of why fitting in feels so incredibly important. What's so fascinating is this idea of normative social influence. You have to remember, for our ancient ancestors, getting kicked out of the tribe wasn't just embarrassing, it was a death sentence. So our brains evolved this incredibly powerful alarm system to make sure we stay in the group's good graces, to make sure we're liked and accepted. And this explains so much. This is why speaking up feels so hard sometimes. When you disagree with the group, your brain can light up the exact same regions that process physical pain. That feeling of rejection, it literally hurts. Your brain thinks you're under threat. So of course, our first instinct is to just agree and stay safe. But here's the twist. That feeling of safety, it's kind of an illusion. Constantly dodging this social pain by staying quiet has some really serious consequences. It leads to what you could call becoming the gray figure. Just picture it for a second. Think about all your unique thoughts, your passions, your weird little quirks. Those are your true colors, right? But to avoid standing out and risking that pain of rejection, we start to cover them up. We metaphorically paint ourselves gray, just to blend in with the wall. We become agreeable, maybe even invisible, and in the process, a little less us. And every single time you add another layer of that gray paint, something else is happening on the inside. A little bit of resentment starts to build up. Think of every "I'm fine with whatever" as a tiny deposit into a frustration bank. It's quiet, it's hidden, but believe me, it is always, always accumulating. So here's the whole cycle laid out perfectly. It all starts with that primal fear of social pain. That fear leads you to put on the gray persona to fit in. But underneath, that resentment is building and building and building until eventually you hit a breaking point, and you either explode in a burst of anger that seems to come out of absolutely nowhere, or you implode, just collapsing into disconnection or even depression. And here's the really wild part. This doesn't just happen to individuals. It happens to entire groups. We're talking families, entire companies, even governments. And there's a fascinating name for this kind of collective failure. It's called the Abilene Paradox. Okay, get ready because this concept is a real mind-bender. The Abilene Paradox is what happens when a whole group of people agrees to do something that not a single person in that group actually wants to do. It sounds impossible, right? But it's a journey into a collective delusion, all driven by that same individual fear of just speaking up. The original story that gave this its name is just perfect. Picture this. A family is sitting on a hot porch in Texas just sweating. Someone, trying to be polite, suggests driving 53 miles to Abilene for dinner, thinking everyone else must be bored. And then everyone else agrees because they don't want to be the one to shoot the idea down. So they all pile into a car, take this long, hot, dusty trip for a lousy meal, only to find out on the ride home that absolutely nobody wanted to go in the first place. And this right here, this shows the gap so clearly. On the surface, you've got what looks like a total unanimous agreement. Let's go to Abilene. But underneath, the private individual reality is the exact opposite. I would literally rather do anything else, but I'll go along. This is the danger zone. This is where terrible decisions get made, because everyone is acting on a completely false idea of what the group wants. And this is the ultimate cost, isn't it? The Abilene Paradox isn't just about bad dinners. It's about business projects that everyone knows will fail, policies that are going to backfire, relationships that just drift apart. It is essentially a collective agreement to fail. All because no one had the courage to be the first one to say, guys, I think we have a leak. So if we're all walking around covered in gray paint, on a ship that might be sinking, what do we do? How do we possibly reverse this? Well, it all starts with one single idea: embracing the value of authenticity. And let's be really clear here. Speaking up is going to feel threatening. Your brain is going to scream at you that it's a huge risk. And we have to acknowledge that fear is real. But the real threat, the greater danger, it's a life of disconnection. It's being surrounded by people who only know the gray, muted version of you. Authenticity is the only way to find out who's actually there for the real you. And the benefits of taking that risk? Man, they are huge. You build real connections, not fake ones based on some performance. Your teams and your families start making way smarter decisions. You finally put a stop to that toxic cycle of resentment. And maybe most importantly, you actually get to discover and be who you really are. And yeah, some people might not like your true colors, but the right people will stay. So I want to leave you with this one last question. That gray paint you might be wearing, what's it hiding? That whatever you're about to say or that opinion you're about to swallow, what truth, what passion, what brilliant idea is hiding underneath it all? And maybe more importantly, what's one small step you can take today to let just a little bit of your true color show through?